Artificial intelligence, it promises so much incredible efficiency, mind blowing innovation. But as it quietly weaves its way into our lives, well, we're finding ourselves walking this ethical tightrope. The very code that's designed to help us, it's also capable of real harm. And it's raising some of the toughest questions of our time. So let's get into it.
Think about that for a second. Could an AI deny you a job just because of your name? All your qualifications, your experience, everything you've worked for, all of it just pushed aside by an algorithm that has a hidden bias against your name. It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, doesn't it?
Well, the thing is, for a lot of people, this isn't some hypothetical future. It's happening right now. It's a documented reality. AI is already out there, reshaping people's opportunities, and in some cases, just reinforcing old prejudices in a brand new automated way.
To really understand how deep this problem goes, we gotta look at where AI is already making these huge decisions about our lives. And one of the biggest places this is happening is in hiring.
Now, that is not a typo. Pretty much all of the biggest companies in the world are using AI to sift through resumes and pick out candidates. The scale here is just massive, and that means that any tiny bias in one of these systems can have absolutely massive consequences. And the data, well, it paints a pretty stark picture. Researchers at the University of Washington did this incredible study where they tested AI hiring tools. They sent in identical resumes, and the only thing they changed was the name at the top to sound stereotypically white or black. And the results were just staggering. The AI preferred the white-sounding names an overwhelming amount of the time. And it gets even more specific than that. The study's lead author, Kyra Wilson, pointed out that it wasn't just about race or gender on their own. The AI systems, for instance, never once ranked a black male name over a white male name. This just perfectly shows how AI can pick up on these overlapping intersectional biases in ways that are really, really hard to even spot. Now, this problem isn't just stuck in the corporate world. We're seeing the same kind of hidden biases pop up in an even higher stakes arena, the criminal justice system. Right now, judges across the US use this algorithm called Compass to predict how likely a defendant is to reoffend. But a huge investigation by ProPublica found that its mistakes were anything but random. They found that black defendants who did not go on to reoffend were almost twice as likely to be wrongly flagged as high risk compared to white defendants. That's a 45% error rate versus 23%. And on the flip side, white defendants who did reoffend were far more likely to be mistakenly labeled low risk. So you have to wonder, right? This isn't necessarily a bunch of programmers with bad intentions sitting in a room somewhere. The bias is creeping in from somewhere else. So where does it actually come from? How does a system that's built on pure logic and data learn how to discriminate? Well, the answer, pretty much every time, lies in the data. The data these powerful systems are trained on. Okay, so one way bias can get into a system is through a deliberate attack. It's called data poisoning. This is literally when someone intentionally feeds the AI bad or malicious data to teach it the wrong things, either to create a weakness or to introduce a very specific bias. But honestly, what's way more common than some kind of Bond villain attack is a much simpler and kind of more troubling problem. See, AI learns by crunching massive amounts of historical data. So if that data reflects decades of real-world societal bias in things like hiring or policing, the AI is going to learn those biases. It won't see them as flaws, it'll see them as patterns to copy. The AI is just holding up a mirror to our own history, biases and all. And the fallout from these learned biases goes way beyond just one person's court case or job application. We are talking about a fundamental reshaping of our economy and our society. Let this number just sink in for a moment. 800 million. According to one major study, that's how many jobs around the world could be impacted by AI-driven automation by the year 2030. And this isn't just about factory jobs anymore. AI is automating tasks all over the place. We're talking customer service chatbots, self-checkout kiosks, even complex data analysis and administrative work that people used to do. The potential for social and economic disruption here is absolutely immense. And it's not just automating jobs, it's also automating judgment. Think about the rapid rise of facial recognition technology. It's creating this massive challenge, forcing us to try and balance safety with our basic right to privacy, as surveillance becomes easier and more common than ever before. So, with all of these huge challenges, from bias in the code to job displacement, mass surveillance, how do we move forward? Right? How do we actually use all the power of AI without throwing away our values?
Well, it turns out the world is taking very different approaches to this. Over in the EU and the UK, they're focused on this idea of privacy by design. It's all governed by their big data law, GDPR. That means companies have to do mandatory impact assessments before they can even roll out high-risk AI. The US, on the other hand, has more of a patchwork of different laws, and it often relies on individuals to sue for damages after the harm has already been done. Now, with governments still figuring things out, some of the big tech companies are trying to write their own rule books. Microsoft, for example, published its 6 core principles for responsible AI, including things you'd hope to see, like fairness, transparency, and accountability. But look, company principles and cleaner code, that's only part of the puzzle. At its very core, this is a human problem. It's about deciding who is actually responsible when an algorithm gets it wrong and causes real harm.
So as AI starts making more and more decisions about our lives, about our jobs, our freedom, our opportunities, who is ultimately responsible? Is it the programmer who wrote the code, the company that used the system, the government that maybe failed to regulate it? As AI becomes more and more autonomous, answering that question, it's not just important, it's probably the central challenge of our time.